It only happens 1 week a year, and we get to talk about it all week long. We're talking about the Backyard Brawl. West Virginia travels to Pittsburgh this year, but who has the upper hand in this year's Backyard Brawl? We talk about that and more on this episode of Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is another episode of Locked On West Virginia, and on a collision course. For next Saturday, we've got the West Virginia Mountaineers, we've got the Pitt Panthers, and I would love to thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. West Virginia and Pitt are both coming off pretty strong wins. Definitely Cincinnati, a team that Pitt has played before. If you remember the old Big East, that was a renewed rivalry game in a sense. Pitt with a huge comeback win in this game, down by 3 scores. The Pitt Panthers stormed back, scored 22 unanswered points, and pull off the largest comeback since the 70s. Meanwhile, West Virginia, after playing one of the worst games of the Neil Brown era against Penn State in Week 1, played an overmatched Albany team, albeit a little bit worrisome at times, in a Saturday blowout. So two teams heading what seems to be the same direction, but one team has a little bit more momentum than the other. And I would say that being the Pitt Panthers. If you look at it, that comeback win could spur them onto a pretty good season. It could spur them onto a bad season. It's really hard to tell. You never know which iteration of Pitt did we just see. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette talks about it right here. Pitt mounts dramatic comeback and earns a probable road win over Cincinnati with last-minute field goal. The Panthers scored 22 unanswered points in the second half and stole a win in the River City rivalry. Under a picturesque blue sky, Nippert Stadium swelled with Cincinnati fans eager to watch two former Big East foes battle, and the raucous environment appeared to get under the skin of Pitt's redshirt freshman quarterback Eli Holstein. A slow start for Holstein kept the offense stuck in the mud, combined with the porous Pitt defense at all 3 levels. It equaled a quick and deflating deficit for the Panthers, but they showed remarkable grit in the second half, scoring 22 unanswered points to steal a 28-27 win right out from under the noses of the Cincinnati Bearcats on their home turf. A 9-play, 63-yard drive in the closing minutes set up a short game-winning field goal from Ben Sauls. But the Panthers had loads of work to do before they could enjoy the ecstasy of victory. Making the first road start of his college football career, Holstein showed his youth early. He fired a handful of errant passes before Josh Minkins, one of the 8 defenders Cincinnati had dropped into coverage, baited him into an interception in the end zone to cut the first possession short. Holstein completed just 7 of 17 passes for 91 yards and an interception in the first half, as the Bearcats ran up a 17-3 lead in the second quarter. Me, probably as a freshman, second game played in an atmosphere like that, I've got to handle that a little bit better, Holstein said. We're going to play in some difficult places this season, and just getting a game like that, a half like that under my belt, is going to make me get a lot better. In the second half, Holstein improved dramatically, completing 13 of 18 passes for 211 yards and 3 touchdowns, which brought Pitt back into a game that was slipping out of its hands quickly. Holstein's 35 rushing yards gained on consecutive scoring drives in the third and fourth quarters were invaluable as well, as the Panthers tried to spark a comeback. Pitt scored touchdowns on 3 consecutive possessions, twice on passes to Kanata Mumfield, who hauled in 123 yards, and a third time on a 56-yard catch and run from Desmond Reed, who ended the game with 239 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown while walking and running with a noticeable limp. Reed is a dog, Holstein said. He's from Florida. He was raised a little bit different, being from the South and everything, and he's a guy who stuffs his nails and going to do everything the team needs him to do. But the decision to attempt a 2-point conversion on the second touchdown loomed large. Failures on 2 consecutive 2-point attempts in the beginning of the fourth quarter meant the Panthers trailed up 17 seconds were left in the game. but proved inconsequential as saw a flannel-cooked kick sail through the uprights. The recommendation when we were down 21 was to go for 2, and I didn't think momentum-wise that was a smart decision. Pat Narduzzi said, all the analytics say you need to go for it. Again, if you get one of those, then you're possibly playing for the win. So we're not playing to tie, we're playing to win. As the offense found its legs, so did the Pitt defense. And it goes on to talk about how their defense played a lot better in the second half. On the West Virginia side of things, Garrett Green threw 3 touchdowns as West Virginia beats Albany. West Virginia quarterback might never be completely satisfied with his offensive performance as long as opportunities to get in the end zone are left unfulfilled. There's 2 drives we didn't score on, Green said. We got to clean those things up. Other than that, I thought it was a productive day. Green threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for another score. 2 West Virginia running backs rushed for over 100 yards. The Mountaineers beat Albany 49-14 on Saturday night. C.J. Donaldson ran for 125 yards. Jaheim White had 100 for the Mountaineers. Both had a rushing touchdown. The Mountaineers compiled 305 yards on the ground and shaking off some of the sting from the lethargic 34-12 loss in the opener at number 8 Penn State. A week ago, Green was responsible for 3 fumbles, and West Virginia got in the end zone just once on 5 trips inside the 30-yard line. This time, the yards came much easier against an Albany defense with 11 new starters. West Virginia coach Neil Brown said Green just did a better job of being in control compared to a week earlier. You've got to be real careful because he does have high energy, Brown said. I don't ever want to put out that flame. But at the same time, can't get overly hot. He's got to continue to play within himself, and I thought he did a better job of that. Green scored on a 40-yard run just before halftime and engineered a 15-play, 99-yard drive to start the third quarter, capped by his 10-yard scoring toss to Hudson Clement for a 35-14 lead. Green, who sat out the fourth quarter, completed 17 of 23 passes for 236 yards and had 68 rushing yards. 7 different players scored a touchdown for West Virginia. We showed our inexperience on defense, Albany coach Greg Gattuso said. On defense, West Virginia had trouble controlling Albany quarterback Miles Burkett. He kept alive 1 touchdown run drive with runs of 19 and 14 yards. After White fumbled at the end of the 39-yard run on West Virginia's next series, Burkett drove Albany 76 yards in 7 plays, capped by his 33-yard touchdown toss to Jakari Carter to cut the deficit to 21-14. Burkett finished 18 of 39 for 306 yards. If you're able to go up against the Big 12, the team will beat them deep as much as we beat them. I feel pretty good about that, Gattuso said. Well, we're going to talk about just that. The West Virginia defense actually struggling against an FCS team. Should we worry about that going against a Pitt team that's going to be a lot more talented? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On West Virginia. 5-Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long to-do list for work or list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5-Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me and you always have a large list of projects for the home, when you get your supplies for the project, do not forget the essential supply, which is a 5-Hour Energy shot. With 0 sugar, a convenient portable size, it's a perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore: watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There is a flavor for everyone, so you really should try them all. On the site, you can even have an option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors, and it is delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy products today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCollegeFootball to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5-Hour Energy today. So a lot to be excited about. Obviously, it's Backyard Brawl week. We're going to be comparing lots and lots of different things as the week goes along. The West Virginia Mountaineers are going to be without a key cog in that game. Eddie Vesterinen, starting defensive tackle, went out of the game. Neil Brown said in his press conference, probably going to be out a few weeks. That's a pretty big loss for West Virginia. Definitely one of the better run stuffers for West Virginia. Hate to see that for Eddie V. He's a great kid. He's worked really hard to be in the position that he's in. We'll have to continue to monitor that situation. Unsure on the Pitt side of things. Not sure if they have any injuries or not. But the major question I wanted to ask in this segment is, should we be worried? I just got done talking about it on the live after the game, but West Virginia allowed a quarterback in his second career start to throw for over 300 yards and continually go deep against them with FCS receivers. Sure, number 7, absolutely Power 5 receiver, transferred from Oregon. But they had more than just him going deep against the Mountaineers. And it was supposed to have been the best corner for West Virginia that was supposed to be doing it. And he did not perform well. Garnett Hollis getting beat deep over and over again so far this year. He's supposed to be the best corner we have, and that's not been the case up until now. I think we should be worried. Hopefully there's other guys in that back end. They brought in 6, for goodness sakes. They can step up and make a difference, because if it's not him, then who? Lots and lots of plays piling up on the Mountaineers. Also, the West Virginia offense, a little herky-jerky, even still. We had fumbles on drives. We had drop passes on the goal line. Still a really slow start for this West Virginia team, much like years past. Why does Neil Brown's teams do that? You have to wonder. And the defense, obviously, the most worrisome part of this all, there's no doubt about it. Does he use too much analytics? I think it's a fair question. You heard him say last week against Pitt State, he got caught managing situational football and using analytics instead, right? He used analytics to make a call at the end of the first half against Pitt State because they had a certain tendency, and then they beat them deep for a touchdown, so that tendency didn't come to fruition. The end of the first half against FCS opponent Albany, same situation occurs. Man coverage, get beat deep for a touchdown. Surely, to goodness, this cannot be a trend. Could this secondary continue to get torched for West Virginia? We have to hope not. If it does, then Holstein and beyond continue to have big days against this West Virginia defense. Really worried about that situation, and I think you should be too. Don't forget to like the video, guys. As always, don't forget to subscribe to Locked On West Virginia. And share this out with your friends around college football, around X, wherever you can. Would very much appreciate that, guys. This is going to be a fun week ahead. We want everybody to catch the action as we talk about the lead up to Pitt and West Virginia. Really excited to see what the stadium turnout's going to be there at Pitt. It was really, really awesome a couple years ago. It's in 2022, the year that C.J. Donaldson broke out. That was a really cool atmosphere. Hoping it's another cool atmosphere this year, except hopefully we don't throw a pick 6 at the end like JT Daniels did. That's the part we're going to try to go without this time. But I really am looking forward to this game. Can't wait to talk about it. Next on Locked On West Virginia, we're going to talk about a couple matchups that I have pointed out. They're going to be key matchups in this game. Can West Virginia stay with all the skill talent that Pitt has? That's next on Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Ultimate Football Head Coach. Hey, Locked On West Virginia fans, I want to take a moment and give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's called Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of the head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of West Virginia or Pitt? For recruiting players and hiring coaches, staff to oversee training camps and handing school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program, and it's really all in your hands. But could you handle the pressure? Here's what I really love about the game, though. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during games, and your strategy will not only determine your success of your season, but it's also going to shape the future and the legacy of your program. Will you be a winning program or a losing program? Well, Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free. It doesn't even have ads. It's 100% playable on offline, and you can play on the go as you want and when you want. And also, of course, we have a very special offer for your Locked On team, especially Locked On West Virginia fans. Use the promo code Locked On College Football CFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. Download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com or Ultimate College Football Head Coach in the App Store. Begin your legacy of coaching today. All right, so some matchups early on in this game that I want to talk about. There are some interesting ones. The West Virginia defense is going to be up against it in this game. First matchup I want to talk about is Desmond Reed. He is an absolute stud, guys. I encourage West Virginia fans, if you don't know who Desmond Reed is, he wears 0 for the Pitt Panthers. And he might be their most elusive back since Shady McCoy. They've had some elusive backs in there. This guy is seriously talented, and he's as good a receiver as he is a running back. He's shown that in back-to-back weeks. He had over 100 yards receiving today on 6 catches, and then another 19 carries for 150 yards on the ground. He seriously is super dangerous, guys. And my number one worry in this game, number 0. They say he was limping off. Don't worry that he's injured. But wouldn't mind if he missed the West Virginia game. Hopefully not severely injured, though. Holstein, I'm not really sold on 100% yet. Like in that Cincinnati game, he was wildly inaccurate in the first half. You do that against really good teams, and I'm not sure West Virginia is a really good team yet. You do that against really good teams, you're going to get buried way deeper than they were in that game than just 3 scores. So can West Virginia – can they do anything against Holstein that maybe makes them make a couple early mistakes? And then can they capitalize on it? Pitt's defense has shown the ability to be able to be gotten. They have not really played a dominant style yet this year. That's Narduzzi's calling card. Will he get that defense together as the year goes along, or are they just missing some pieces? I can tell you that looks to be the case on the West Virginia side of things, and I think Holstein versus West Virginia secondary is going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, look, he's been able to throw for 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a pick or so far this year. So he can't be all bad. But when I watch him throw the ball, it can be inaccurate. His guys are just making plays for him, which is all you need at the end of the day. So I think those are my first few matchups to talk about. Don't want to get into them all, but those are the first few matchups I want to talk about. I think the West Virginia defense versus Desmond Reed, Holstein versus the West Virginia secondary, and then obviously the West Virginia offensive line versus the Pitt defensive line. Can they dominate that matchup? I think they got a shot. And if they can, what kind of game is West Virginia going to want to slow the game down? They want to speed it up and score a lot. I think it all really depends. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a fun week, guys. Can't wait to see this Backyard Brawl game. It should have a great, great atmosphere, and it's going to be fun to watch on TV. Hope you're going to be watching it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Keep coming back, like I say, as always, for more on the Backyard Brawl this week. We'll be covering it all week long. We'll talk about all the ins and outs of both teams, both programs, both coaches, tendencies, everything you want to talk about, guys, right here on Locked On. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen of today, but don't make it your only listen. Head over to Locked On College Football and Spencer McGoughlin next. Realignment, NIL, he goes really deep into both, and you don't even have to search very far to find him. Just search for Locked On College Football on the YouTube app, and it'll pop right up. Go check on Locked On College Football next. And thank you for watching Locked On West Virginia.